So I'm doing my presentation on the aging and elderly. Mine is actually going to be about back home. I'm from Canada, so mine is oriented towards the province of Alberta.
Nice.
So a little bit different than what you guys are
Get to
going to
learn
learn.
a little bit outside of the valley, right?
So these are my table of contents. What is, or who's considered a senior? In Canada, the age of 65 is typically used to qualify someone as an older person. So when talking about a senior citizen, it doesn't necessarily mean somebody who's 85, 90 years old. It can be pretty young. And this is actually the legal age definition in Canada. Between 2013 and 2023, the proportion of seniors, those 65 and older, increased from 12% to 16% of our total population. By 2051, 1 in 5 Albertans will be a senior, which is a lot. This is local population. So Leduc County, that's where I'm from. Thorsby, the little town circled, is my hometown, and the little dot right above is approximately where my family farm is. The overall population of Leduc County is 14,416. The population of people 65 years and over is 2,440, which equals 16.9% of the population are elderly people. It is a very rural, very farm-oriented area. Aging in place. This is the policy that Alberta has for our senior citizens. Aging in communities or aging in place means having the health and social supports and services needed to live safely and independently in your home or community for as long as you wish and are able. This is to ensure that the services, nursing homes, hospitals, etc., are not getting inundated with people and getting overcapacitated, which it's a good, it's really great idea, but unfortunately it doesn't always happen. Actually, I would say 9 times out of 10 it doesn't happen. Assistant programs. So Canada is a very socialist country, so there are government programs, government assistances at every single level. All of these actually have links, but I'm just going to go to this one, the National Initiative for Care of the Elderly in Canada, because this organization has done a really great job in amassing information from all the levels, federal and provincial, and putting it in one spot. As well as other things, e-newsletters, podcasts, web pages, social media. This is like a one-stop shop for resources. And one of the things that I love that they've done is they've taken the provincial resources, so like for the province of Alberta, and they went on to the provincial websites and amassed everything. So caregiving resources, finance resources, end-of-life resources, mental health, legal, elder abuse information, and help for people that are experiencing elder abuse. It's just probably the premier, in my opinion, website to go to, because it has everything. And then these are the city of Leduc, so what the closest city to me, programs that they have, and all sorts of stuff here. Just kind of click through stuff. And Leduc County, which was that blue, what's available for people in the county. So Leduc County and the city of Leduc. While the city of Leduc is surrounded by the county of Leduc, it is technically not in Leduc County. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. Some stuff that if you're like living in Leduc County, you don't necessarily qualify for stuff that's from within the city of Leduc, and vice versa. But at the same time, there are things that it does overlap. Local programs and assistances, these are from my hometown in Thorsby. Heart to Home Meals, it's kind of like a subscription, you can get all the different kind of meal subscriptions, but this is, the food is already prepared for them, so all they have to do is warm it up. Breton Food Bank, Leduc Food Bank, Thorsby, my little hometown, has a little seniors thrift store where anybody can donate to the thrift store, and then they use the proceeds that they make from selling the goods and donations for the different programs and stuff that are in my little hometown of less than 1,000 people. Kindred Care Home Services, it's just an in-home care service. People can apply and get somebody to come in, whether it's cleaning or cooking or whatever, just help them with their activities of daily living. Leduc Regional Housing Foundation, Happy Haven is a little place in Thorsby. It's kind of a transition from, so you need more help, but you're not to the point where you need a full-on nursing home, and this is kind of the happy medium, so we're keeping people within the community a little bit longer than having to usher them out to a bigger city where there's facilities that have all the extra CNAs, healthcare aides back home, LPNs, RNs, doctors. This is just a little bit of a way to keep them closer to home for a little bit longer. Drive Happiness is an organization based out of Edmonton, which is about an hour away from Thorsby. And you can apply and buy tickets to get people volunteer to come out and drive you to your appointments or stuff if you can't drive longer distances, or you can't drive at all, to appointments and just for whatever you need help with. The senior buses is similar, but it is based out of Leduc, so it's a little bit closer to Thorsby than Drive Happiness is. And we have an AHS, which is Alberta Health Services, nurse practitioner-led clinic. So there's a nurse practitioner that goes between 3 rural communities that are within a 30-minute drive of each other. So she goes between a little town called Kalmar, which is 15 minutes east of Thorsby, and a little town called Warburg that is 15 minutes west of Thorsby. So they're all very close, and she just travels between the 3 throughout the week to see people who can't necessarily get out of the communities to see doctors. Hospice and respite care. These are just a bunch of hospice and respite care organizations based out of Edmonton and area. So Alberta, especially the Edmonton area, has seen a huge influx of people because a lot of immigrants are moving in. A lot of people are moving from other provinces into Alberta for a lot of different reasons. And a lot of with aging in home and trying to keep people out of facilities, it's really hard for people to just constantly be hands-on care for their family members. So these are organizations that people can get a hold of to help just bring somebody in for a day, for a couple of days, so that they can go on family vacation, so that they can go and just take some time away and see to their mental health and their personal needs without worrying about what's happening to mom or dad or grandma and grandpa. Potential barriers. Geographic barriers is probably one of the biggest barriers in Alberta, because Alberta, much like Montana, is very big, and especially the farther north you go. And so you've got Calgary and Edmonton, which are very big cities, but once you get outside of those cities, it's rural, it's farm, there's not a lot there. So you're driving anywhere from an hour plus to get any kind of comprehensive medical care. And it's a big issue, especially when you're older and you can't drive that far. You need to be able to access healthcare. and it's just lack of program service funding as well, and just lack of programs and services in general. Because it's small in the community, they can't afford to offer a lot of things like you can access in a bigger city. Also, social and healthcare workers, there's a big issue with lack of healthcare workers. I work in a hospital as a CNA back home, and we are short-staffed almost every single shift. It's a big problem. And of course, like I said, increased travel time. Technological barriers. So as you saw, pretty much everything that, like program information, all the things, it's all online. When a lot of the older people, older generations cannot or have difficulty with navigating things online, navigating a lot of the stuff, like even the forms that they have to fill out, they have to go online to access, which is problematic because they didn't grow up with technology in their classrooms and learning from technology from very young. So it definitely is a big barrier in that regard. Eligibility gaps, depending on the program, you might not be, or the program requirements, you might not be eligible for it. For example, this is from the Government of Canada, as I remember. If a senior has chosen to defer receiving the OAS, which is Old Age Security, they are ineligible for senior financial assistance programs. This is a specific exclusion that can affect some seniors' access to assistance. So old age security is kind of like pensions. If you are not taking out part of your pension, you are not going to be able to access the assistance you need. So if you have to work longer, or you're choosing to work longer past the age of 65, you're not going to be eligible for the assistance that you might need, which is problematic. Social justice issues. 30% of Canadian seniors are at risk for becoming socially isolated. Aging in place is a really great policy. I love it. I think it is so important. It maintains dignity and independence, but at the same time, a lot of times, and I have seen it personally time and time again, people are not getting out of their homes. They're in their homes, but they're staying in their homes. They're not coming out for social interactions and stuff, and they are isolating and oftentimes end up in the hospital with what we call failure to thrive. Elderly abuse, overall 3/4, so 76% of seniors who report experience in violent victimization in 2019 or physically assaulted. Abuse is huge. Financial abuse is the most common form of elder abuse in Canada. I have seen it many times. We have had to get our hospital social worker involved in numerous cases of suspected and confirmed elder abuse situations, and 9 times out of 10 it's because it's financial abuse. It's really heartbreaking to watch because these people just want their family members in their lives, and oftentimes they let it happen because it's the only way their family members will stay in their lives. It's really heartbreaking to watch. Access to comprehensive health care, as I said earlier, Alberta has a big issue with having a lot of people and not enough healthcare workers to look after them, especially because the population is just aging rapidly. Access to seeking justice. Oftentimes, elderly people can't access, if they want to seek retribution, if they want to seek justice for the whatever abuse or other things that have happened, they can't. And a big part of that is because it's so expensive. And so the ACLRC is seeking to make sure that elderly Canadians can access the justice and help that they need affordably. So it's really comprehensive. Who are elders in Canada? What does justice mean to elders? Understanding elders' access to justice issues. So it's really educational for the average person, but it's also helpful for the senior citizens who are needing help. It talks about senior women, LGBTQ plus seniors, Aboriginal seniors, immigrant and visible minorities, common access to justice barriers for elders. It's a really comprehensive website that gives information for helping elders seek the justice that they deserve. And ageism. This is one that I am super passionate about because my parents are boomers, and in the last few years you've seen all the memes on social media and talk about the boomers and stuff. It's writing off elderly people. I've heard so often comments about how, oh, well, they're just senile, they don't know what they're talking about, they're just not all there anymore, which is also something that leads often to people falling between the gaps with getting justice, because an elderly person will say something and they're like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, they're not all there anymore. And it leads to ageism. They're being written off because of their age, and they're falling between the cracks, and it's really, really tragic to see happen. Advocacy and making a change. Alberta's strategy, so this is the province of Alberta, strategy for preventing and addressing elder abuse. There was something on here that I really appreciated. If I can find what page I'm on here. Okay, here we go. Defining elder abuse. So the previous definition, legal definition for elder abuse, where is it? It's really hard to see. The government of Alberta previously defined elder abuse as, quote, any action or inaction by self, others, or others that jeopardize the health or well-being of an older adult. A few years ago, after the election, the government of Alberta went in and revised the official definition of what elder abuse is, which makes me incredibly happy. And the new definition is elder abuse is any intentional or reckless act or willful and negligent disregard occurring within a relationship of family, trust, or dependency directed at someone 65 years of age or older that causes physical harm, causes emotional and psychological harm, involves the misappropriation or misuse of money or other personal possessions or personal or real property, subjects an individual to non-consensual sexual contact, activity, or behavior, or fails to provide the necessities of life. So this is making it's a much more comprehensive, much more in-depth definition that will help when and if elderly people are seeking justice for any kind of abuse. This covers them way more than the previous definition used to. Elderly Advocates of Alberta provide legal counsel and protection for Alberta seniors. Health advocacy, the Alberta Health Services provides health advocates for people who do not have a family member or a close loved one to advocate for them based on their health, which can be a good thing, but at the same time, when your advocate is paid by the organization that they're advocating to, it can cause some issues where which is where the National Association of Federal Retirees comes in, and they are currently trying to restore Alberta seniors' access to independent advocates, which was done away with several years ago, and they are just trying to make it so that elderly people have more nonpartisan advocates that aren't bought by the organization that they are advocating to. And affordable education to training future healthcare aides, or CNAs, in rural Alberta. So years and years ago, Alberta had a program where you could go into a nursing home and get trained on the job. You get your certification, you get paid at the same time, and then they did away with that because everything moved into being trained in colleges, which is how I got my certification as a CNA, or healthcare aide. I had to take out a probably equivalent to $10,000 student loan to get my certification, whereas this, you wouldn't have to take out any kind of student loans, so it helps people who are not eligible for student loans, so immigrants and low income or whatever. It just makes it so people have easier access to the training to get people out into the rural communities so that people have better care. My take: increasing community advocacy and education for, about, and to seniors. I am a huge advocate for community education, for family education, because I have seen time and time again in my own personal life, as well as in my career as a CNA, people not having the understanding of the nutritional needs that elderly people need, because when you are younger, you need your nutritional needs are going to be vastly different than when you're older, because your body's changing. And so helping families and elderly people understand the nutritional needs of the elderly is super important and beneficial, because it'll keep, if they're getting the proper nutrition, they'll be in their homes longer, they'll be independent longer, which also physical movement, educating, like, you gotta keep moving, you can't just stay home and sit in a chair and watch TV and just veg all day, every day, because your muscles are going to atrophy and you are not going to do well. You are going to end up in a nursing home sooner rather than later, which is not generally what people want. They want to stay home. And respecting the aging and elderly process. I think a big issue with, there's a big generation gap, and younger generations don't really know how to identify with and talk to and just even understand elderly people and the aging process. And I think if there was more education available to people, it would go such a long way to helping people take better care of their aging and elderly family members. And increased health education for healthcare workers is also a big one that I am passionate about. Elderly education. I have seen so many young nurses, CNAs coming into the hospitals, into rural areas, and they don't really understand or know how to interact with older people. And it can lead to elderly people feeling degraded and just misunderstood. Dementia education is another one. Teaching healthcare workers, because HCAs, CNAs, 9 times out of 10 are going to end up working in nursing homes with the aging elderly, and a lot of them have dementia or developing dementia. And a lot of them don't know how to deal with dementia. Dementia can lead to a lot of inappropriate sexual comments and just a lot of different things that can happen. And they're not even aware of it. And it can be very traumatizing if you are not properly educated that this is going to happen, this is how you deal with it, this is why this is happening. And increased continuing education for healthcare aides. LPNs, RNs get so much continuing education, post-grad, in their careers, whereas healthcare aides do not. And it is incredibly detrimental for our careers, but it's also detrimental for our patients because we do not have we're not being kept up to date on all the new things, while some of the stuff we might not do directly, we will be assisting the nurses in a lot of the stuff. So not educating us and not teaching us about some of the new procedures that are happening and new products that are being used for different things would be really beneficial. Maintaining dignity. This is another one that like I said, I'm super passionate about nutrition education for elderly people. This is actually pureed food. You can order these molds online. Some of them are pretty expensive, so that's in Canadian. So in American, they range from probably about 20 to 40 bucks, depending which ones you get. But they make the food look more real, and it helps maintain dignity because oftentimes, I don't think I included a picture, I meant to. If you've seen pureed food, baby food, whatever, like that just gets, a lot of places that just gets slopped onto a plate, and there you go, just this big plate of pureed food, and it looks really gross. And this company is seeking to change that so you can mold the food to look like what it actually is, and it maintains the dignity of the patients. It makes them just feel better. I've heard so many times comments about how, oh, they're feeding me like a baby. I'm not a baby. I don't want to eat this. And that's just so that they're getting their nutritional needs met, while also being able to properly eat and not aspirate on the food that they are eating. There's also another company here that you can order. It's pureed food that's pre-molded that you can get sent to your loved one's house. It is pretty expensive, unfortunately, which is a definite barrier. But if it is an option, it's another really great option. Or you can just go online and buy some of the cheaper polypropylene molds and do the molding yourself for your family member who's still at home. Yeah, I think it's just a really great meet in the middle kind of situation. Current events, I've talked about it many times at this point, the healthcare chokehold. Practitioners, so doctors, only have approximately 2 hours of direct care with their elderly patients in senior living facilities, which generally means that they get maybe 5 to 10 minutes FaceTime, if they're lucky, per patient. Which is problematic because you're not going to be able to comprehensively figure out what's going on with your patients if you're only getting 5 to 10 minutes with them. There's a huge shortage of family doctors in Alberta, and direct care healthcare worker shortage, which, like I said, CNAs are the biggest one because we have the most hands-on care with elderly patients. Economic anxieties. This is a little video that it's about 2 minutes long, I think.
Buying a car?
Always the commercials.
It's never been more important. It's never been more important to account for every dollar, especially when there's no steady paycheck coming in.
The end of the month gets a little tighter every every month.
Suzanne Treasure has been living off her investments for the last 10 years. But the rising cost of living and now bouncing stock market have her questioning how long her savings will last.
It can be really scary to look at your bank account and see how much it's dropped.
She's cut back on groceries and canceled her annual vacation this year because of stock market volatility caused by US tariffs and the impact it's having on her retirement plans.
The reality is a social media post could mean your investments go down a significant amount.
Demand for the Kirby Center's basic needs services like food hampers and housing has been on the rise for the past 5 years, with a current waiting list sitting at 200 people. Staff say all the economic uncertainty has some of their clients making impossible choices.
People are actually making decisions about buying medications that they may need because they can't afford groceries. So they're deciding one or the other.
Affordability even more top of mind for low-income seniors. A free tax clinic is helping those surviving on government benefits make sure they are accessing every dollar available to them.
Their day-to-day living costs are covered. It's just not anything extra. So if unexpected illness or even going to the hospital may impact some of their savings.
As for Treasure, she's trying to cut where she can to keep her savings intact, as she watches some of her retired friends feeling forced to pick up part-time jobs just to make ends meet.
We only have so long on this earth to do the things that we want to do. And if you have to cut them out, then you're living a poorer lifestyle than what you would like.
Megan Cobb, Global News.
So the tariffs, definitely affecting Canada. Politics, not fun to talk about, but it is a very real thing. Canada relies on the United States massively for to subsidize the economy. So the tariffs are definitely directly and indirectly causing issues, especially for those who cannot afford things even without them, even before. And then there's been a spike of abuse in nursing homes. I didn't click on it earlier. There was a link. There was a few years ago, 2021, I believe it was, a man broke into an elderly lady, a 90-year-old lady's apartment, and raped her. And he was just earlier this year finally convicted and charged. It's a big issue. They're at least once a year, whether it's somebody's home or in nursing homes. It's more common in nursing homes. Stories like that come out pretty often.
Kristen, I'm gonna have to end you because class is gonna be done in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Do you wanna give us a?
Yes, and I think that was it anyways, so,
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
all right. Do you ever see the dementia villages that they have like in Sweden or I can't remember where, but where they have like, they create like grocery stores, but it's for their dementia, aging, and
Yes.
so that they can kind of have that socialization and dignity even when they're confused, but they can be safe about it. So they're not wandering off, they think that they're shopping, you know,
Yeah.
and they think that they're taking care of babies. It's just a really great model for.
Yeah, I love those. I would personally, eventually, later on in my life, love to see about helping start something like that. Because I think once you start something like that, more and more they'll become more popular. Other people will be like, oh, this is a really great idea, let's do this. No, I love those. Every time I see a post like that on my social media, I'm like, oh, that is like perfect.
I also think coaching for family when they're parents or aging adults are going through a type of dementia, so that they avoid arguing with that, you know, so they're to help them have better interactions and be less frustrated, because it's really hard.
It is. A lot of people don't understand, you know, the term we use is going into their reality, and that's really what you have to do. People don't understand that. So having like education, but you know, go into their reality. You're not lying to them. You're not, you know, it's not abuse. It's not this. It's not that. It's meeting them where they're at mentally. Really is what it is.
Okay, so